Hello, everyone. My name is Gottesman, Chief Marketing Officer here at ThetaRay. And today I'm sitting with my colleague, Nitzan Solomon, VP of Product. Nitzan has over a decade of experience leading and scaling large global teams in FinCrime, RegTech industry. She's won several awards for her work, including the title of Best RegTech Practitioner and being named one of the UK's top 100 women in tech. Today, we're going to explore how CRA, Customer Risk Assessment, ThetaRay's newest product, addresses pain points in the customer due diligence process, streamlines risk assessments, and adapts to evolving regulatory landscape. Tune in as we uncover the future of risk management in the financial industry. So let's get started. Hi, Nitzan. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
Good. So let's get started. What does it mean to know your customer in our industry? How does this tie into knowing your business risk?
So I think ultimately, your customers are your business. And if you have high-risk customers, ultimately, it just means that you're running a very high-risk business. So it's quite simple, really. And at the end of the day, a lot of times you would be looking at your ratio of high-risk customers within your business, and that's often how you classify. You say, okay, if I have, I wouldn't wish it upon anyone, but if I have a 10% of high-risk customers in my portfolio, well, then it means something about your business.
What are the primary obstacles financial institutions face while using customer risk assessment solutions? And how does ThetaRay seek to address these challenges with its newest product, CRA?
I think the core issue that we have in the industry is that it's simply too simplistic, right? So today's, let's say the majority of the customer risk assessment solutions that are out there are using very deterministic approach. So they would normally use some sort of rules, which by definition have a very clear generalization of the population. So everyone that was born in the UK is low risk. Everyone whose grandma is from Iraq is, and the real world doesn't work like that. And when your rules are so simplistic, your outcome is just not going to represent your risk.
Very nice. Can you explain in simple terms the flow of using the CRA solution, how it works, and why each step is crucial to providing customer risk assessments for our clients?
Sure. So the first step, as always, is just getting the data. Now, probably the most important step, because I think one of the things that we do differently is we enable our customers to have a very, very comprehensive risk assessment by allowing them to actually integrate a huge amount of data points that combined allow them to see the true risk of the customer. So first step in the data integration, essentially what we always tell our customers is bring us every single thing you got, every single data point that you think affect risk. So at the very early stages of onboarding, everything to do with their even fraud risk indicators, anything about, even simple details like their email addresses, and of course the screening indicators, and some of it we provide ourselves, right? But you can use our screening solution for it. But ultimately, when we come to assess the customer, we want to know, any adverse media indicators, of course, the KYC information. And as we move to the ongoing CRA solution, we're looking at everything to do with the customer's behavior. So we're getting in their transactions. Of course, for more complex cases, we're getting the ownership and control structures of the customer. So basically every single data point. So the first step is ingesting all of this data. Second step is the actual risk assessment. So that's where our AI-based algorithms are essentially making sense of all of this. So you can have even, 1,000 different data points. You're bringing them into, at the end of the day, an engine that outputs, is this customer high risk, very high, whatever, each customer can configure the levels that they want. And the final step is the investigation. So at the end of the day, the system itself only provides a recommendation. Now you can say, okay, there are certain cases where I want to make that recommendation a fact. So for example, if I can determine that customer is a high risk PEP, then to me that means high risk customer. That's it. In other cases, you would say, you know what? I'm not comfortable with the AI machine just telling me, who's high risk, who's low risk. I want to validate that, and that's okay as well. So the third step is that investigation. We generate an alert in your system, and you as a customer, you investigate it. And again, we make it very, very easy, very seamless to just get a very, what we call the 360 view of the customer that enables you to say, yes, you know what, I agree with that recommendation. And they get the full explainability. So basically they get the alert. It says, I think that customer is high risk because of X and Y and Z, and look at the transactions pattern, look at this, look at that. And then the customer just says yes or no. So that investigation step is also very important.
Excellent. What would you say is a unique differentiator of ThetaRay's customer risk assessment?
So I think the AI or the technological advancement is at the core of why we are better, I would say. Others would agree. So it starts with the technology, right? It starts with the fact that we, because even the point I made earlier about the data, if you use a very simple solution or even some of the AI solutions out there in the market, they're not necessarily capable of bringing in so many data points. So even if you have the data, you're not going to have anything that can make sense of this entire data set. And having this very advanced technology means that you can incorporate a huge amount of data points. Second thing is having this technological advancement means that that the accuracy that your model can get to is quite amazing. We have a semi-supervised AI machine learning model, which means that we are able to do two things. One is we can learn from kind of past disposition. We can know that, okay, if you have identified a particular pattern as high risk, you've identified that customers having particular characteristics are 10 out of 10 cases have been set as high risk. When I'm going to see these characteristics again, I'm going to be able to tell you, hey, based on what you've done in the past, this customer is also high risk. And again, you investigate, but we put a recommendation. But equally, we don't just do what we refer to as supervised machine learning models. So you don't just learn from what you know or you've done in the past. Our models are also looking at the data itself and the patterns in the data itself. And even if you don't know anything about the particular pattern that we're seeing, the system is able to identify, hey, I think there's something very high risk here. You should look into it. And the combination of doing the supervised and the unsupervised is what makes us tool very strong.
Very nice. Very nice. What are the main business values you believe ThetaRay CRA solution brings to its clients? How does the CRA solution in itself enhance operational efficiency for financial institutions and really drive home this cost effectiveness?
So I think, first of all, the first value from my perspective comes from the accuracy, because I think a lot of the solutions in the industry would have the problem where the solution is not accurate, which means both, yes, you get a lot of garbage alerts and you have a lot of operational efficiency issues, but equally it also means that you're not identifying the customers that are truly high risk, and that's a risk to your business. So I'll start there and I'll say that, first of all, a key value is the fact that you can, rest assured you are actually identifying the true high risk customers and not those whose, mother was born somewhere and therefore, they're allegedly high risk.
The accuracy and the segmentation itself, which actually drives home cost efficiencies.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. And then again, that same, exactly as you said, that same accuracy then applies to the operational efficiency. Now, I've been working also on the other side of the fence. I've been, using these solutions, and maybe the most painful area for me was the enhanced due diligence, right? The amount of money spent, the amount of hours spent on investigations there, and then you have the outreach and then re-review, and there's so much effort going into EDD. So I'll say, from on the operational efficiency standpoint, you have two aspects there, because one is the actual review of the alerts, right? So, in many occasions you're not just going to accept what the system had said. You're going to have an analyst reviewing the cases. But then also, once you've identified somebody as high risk, you have the initial EDD. And then you have, again, with the more traditional solutions, you usually do it not on a dynamic basis as we do, but you do it on a periodic basis. So let's say you define somebody as high risk. So every year you're going to periodically review them. That's another huge undertaking that other customers are having to do using other solution providers that, again, they don't need to. And another important aspect is that the dynamic aspect of our solution. So if you compare a lot of the traditional solutions out there in the market, they operate in a very static manner.
One time.
Yeah. And then, usually if there was maybe a change to customer, to a data point, you're not necessarily going to identify it. You're going to wait until that 1 year mark, or, if it's not a high risk customer, 2 year, 3 year, whatever, each customer would have their own approach, but you're not able to react to changes quickly. But equally, you're having to review a huge amount of customers. And by running this on a dynamic nature, you're going to know as soon as something is up, as soon as there is a problem. You're not going to wait a year to find out, hey, this customer is truly high risk. You're going to know it right there and then. But also from an operational efficiency standpoint, you don't need to open and start reviewing the files of every single customer, because you know that you had an automated review checking every single thing about that customer. So maybe you don't need to, and again, you can decide whatever risk measures you want to undertake, but it's certainly not going to be, I'm going to review everyone for the sake of reviewing because I don't know anything about them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not to mention also the customer friction that the enhanced due diligence process puts individuals through. So the efficiencies there and being able to obviously deliver a seamless experience to their end customers.
Yes, and I can tell you from experience, again, kind of being on the other side of the fence, the amount of customers that we actually lost in certain, in the past, due to customers that have basically decided not to cooperate with the process, right? Mm-hmm. It can be quite an intrusive process, the EDD. And oftentimes it's interesting because oftentimes these are not even counted by the financial institution, because sometimes these customers, nothing would actually happen. They would become, let's call it frozen. So they're like active in the system, but you are not actually considering the fact that they're no longer transacting. They're no longer, generating profit for you. They're just, still live technically in the system, but not live, because they've decided, no, I'm not going to provide you, every single document or detail, just because you decided that, that based on a very simplistic view that I'm high risk.
Right. They reverse course and consider other financial institutions given this enhanced enhanced due diligence obligations and so forth.
And that's, by the way, why accuracy is important, because what we don't want to happen is to skip the customers that do require that. And that's why our accuracy is key, because we know that we do catch the ones that are high risk. We do make sure that there's proper review and we identify them correctly and early.
Good. If you could maybe speak to the configurable aspect of the CRA solution and why that's so important for financial institutions.
So I think different financial institutions would have, first of all, different operating models, different, business conditions, and different risk appetite. And they would be regulated in different places, which requires different things of them. So they have internal and external circumstances and requirements. And we want our solution to be able to cater to everybody's needs, right? So if you are a financial institution and you say, you know what, I have 6 levels of risk because that's how I operate, or I want to create an EDD workflow that aligns to a very specific type of risk. Or, for example, you say, I want to change something about the way I load my data, or I want to make sure that specific risk indicators are more important than others, or how I want to investigate. So we want to make sure that each financial institution can run their own processes the way they want to do it. We don't want to dictate or to enforce anything that's not part of their DNA or in the way they want to do things.
That's true. And not to mention being able to configure it according to the workflow and the UI experience that your analysts or investigators or team members would prefer.
Exactly.
Yeah. So KYC regulations, as we know it, are changing regularly. How does ThetaRay's CRA really adapt to this changing regulatory landscape and the compliance requirements and customer needs?
So again, that's part of our nature of being very much kind of tech-driven and AI-driven and want everything to be dynamic. We truly believe, like in our DNA, that nothing should become legacy and nothing should become irrelevant. And that's how we build our solutions. So, for example, one of the things we're doing, and we're using AI to do that, but we constantly collect every single piece of information that we believe is relevant to how we capture risk and what we think our customers should include in their risk assessment. So as you said, regulatory changes. So we'll have algorithms, as well as, by the way, SMEs that are doing it manually, but reviewing the entire market to understand that if something had occurred, not only do we know about it, but we act on it. So we have this whole workflow of bringing in every single event that had taken place. By the way, not even changes to regulation, but let's say there was an enforcement action or a Dear CEO letter or something happened in the market that means that you should pay more attention to the way you run your risk assessment. Every single one of these occurrences is being logged, and we identify additional risk indicators that we believe should be monitored. So first of all, we continue to collect that. Secondly, the way our model is built means that it's very, very, very easy to add an additional risk indicator to our solution. First of all, we have what we call the rule builder, which is basically you as a user, no techies, you as a system user go in, you can add whatever rule you like. You run a simulation, you see, okay, that's gonna, add 30 high risk customers, it's gonna remove. You see the entire impact right there and then. But equally, when you look at the AI model itself, we have a feature generator which does a similar thing, but on the AI side. So you're saying it's very seamless. It's very easy to decide that you want to add an additional risk indicator, an additional feature. And of course, you have these simulations so that you can say, I'm not just adding it without understanding implications. Maybe I need to prepare or have some operational changes. So you can, again, there and then understand implications.
Exactly. You can already get almost a preview of what that configuration or that rule or that additional feature would look like in real life.
Exactly.
Yeah. What kind of training and support does ThetaRay offer its customers when it comes to CRA, outside of obviously this session right here?
So we truly believe that, to have a really great solution, we want to help you as much as we can. And we do it in different fronts because there are different aspects that would make your solution great. And we want to be there and help in each and every one of those. So first of all, we have a world-class SME team. So these are, regulatory experts. These are people often have been working in senior positions across the industry. They have been the MLRO. They have been this person who's, they've worked with regulators. So they are there to consult you on, we just talked about it earlier on the risk indicators, right? So, what should you include? What shouldn't you include? Is this, what do we can consult you, and what do we think your regulator is expecting to see, how the workflow. So basically they advise you on regulatory and business aspects of your solution. In addition, we have the support to make sure that everything that we design in principle or as an idea then can be brought to reality efficiently. So we have data scientist support, we have data engineering support. So we have everyone on the technical side that are there to make sure that you get optimal results. They are there to train your model, to identify everything that you want. And it starts from simple things. Like, for example, we talked earlier about the supervised piece. So we want to make sure, okay, we want you to learn from past alerts. We want you to learn from what you've seen in the past. But you know what? And a lot of customers would say that, I don't want you to learn based on every single alert you've seen. What if it was a junior analyst and maybe they made the wrong decision? So we help you configure every single thing to make sure that it's done in the way that you're comfortable with. And separately, we have a dedicated training team who are there. If you want this training, that training, we can build it custom. You can get there are various ways in which we support on the training front. And we're always there. The general support is there. We're always there.
Nice. So final question, Nitzan. You've spent over 10 years in the FinTech and RegTech industries within leading and scaling large global teams. What unique perspective do you feel you bring to the development of ThetaRay's CRA product, and how does it really translate into tangible benefits for end customers such as the financial institutions we serve?
I think sometimes you need to feel the pain to appreciate, I think I was lucky to work across very different industry, very different circumstances. So, in a fintech that is in hyper growth, so everything needs to happen fast, and you have, but is also very kind of very tech driven. With a very much the approach of an army of data scientists, and everything should be, coming from tech. And I've also worked in the more corporate, traditional environment where you have so many data issues, you don't know where to start. You have legacy systems, and you have, and it's a huge effort. And I found actually when I worked with, for some of these institutions, vendors don't always understand the sort of pain points you're dealing with. They don't understand why it's difficult to get the data. It's just transactions, right? You transact, just get me the transactions. It's not that simple. And I think having this experience across different types of businesses and like capital markets and corporate and retail, I think I felt pain in various different points in the process, and kind of that allowed me to, over the years, understand what I want, what I don't want, what's possible, what's not possible. So I think that had really helped. I'm seeing all of the different customers in my mind when we build a product, and like different customer types. And we make sure also, again, I've been in this position where I, as a customer, feel that, the vendor in front of me doesn't understand me. Maybe they understand somebody working in a different jurisdiction or in a slightly different business model. They don't understand what I need. And that realization made sure that, the way we always do things is we consult. I've not worked across the entire, it's not but I make sure that, hey, wait a minute, maybe I don't have a huge amount of knowledge for wealth management. So we're going to we're going to speak to our customers working in that space, make sure that we understand them so that we have a solution that works.
It's great. That unique perspective that you bring to the table obviously played itself out in the creation and the success of the CRA product. Look forward to future segments with you, Nitzan. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.